I was born in 2000, grew up in a small town in northeast Ohio. We had one of those little ranch style houses all on one floor, three bedrooms. It was just me and my mom for most of my life. My dad left when I was a baby. She was a good mom. From what I remember, we didn't have much money, but she made sure I always had what I needed. She worked as a waitress at a restaurant in the center of the town. Always tired, but always kind. We'd watch movies together at night. She'd tuck me in, kiss my forehead, and tell me she loved me. I felt safe. Except at bedtime. I must have been about 6 or 7 the first time I noticed it. One night, after she tucked me in, I heard the floor creak after she turned off the light. Not out in the hall, right by my bed. I remember freezing, listening. Then I heard the sound of her breathing, slow, heavy, right underneath me. I leaned over the edge and whispered, Mom? She didn't answer, just this soft little giggle. Not mean, not playful, just weird. I called for her louder. After a few seconds, she crawled out from under the bed like it was the most normal thing in the world. She smiled at me and said, Go to sleep, sweetheart. Mommy's here. Then she left the room. The next night, same thing. I heard her crawl under right after lights out. The soft thud of her knees and hands against the floorboards, the shift of the mattress as she settled in. Then the breathing. I was too little to really question it. I thought maybe it was just a game she liked to play. But the older I got, the more I realized it wasn't a game. It became a routine. She'd tuck me in like normal, turn off the light, and then she'd get under the bed every single night. And then she started doing little things. She would tap on the wood under my mattress in these odd rhythms, 3 taps, then 2, then 4. Sometimes it sounded almost like a song, other times like random patterns. If I moved or sat up, she'd stop until I lay back down. A couple times I caught her peeking out from the foot of the bed. I'd feel eyes on me and look down, and there she was, her face just visible in the dark, one eye glinting in the faint light from the hall. No expression, just watching. I stopped sleeping well. I'd lie stiff under the covers, too afraid to move or call for her. If I tried to leave the bed, she'd grab my ankle. Not hard, just enough to stop me. Then she'd giggle again. The same soft, weird giggle. I never told anyone. How do you explain something like this when you're a kid? I figured no one would believe me. It wasn't every night that something scary happened. Sometimes she'd just lie there quietly. I'd hear her whispering to herself sometimes. Words I can't make out, soft and steady, like she was talking to someone I couldn't hear. This went on for years. During the day, she was totally normal, made my lunch, helped with homework, joked with me, hugged me. I remember trying to work up the courage to ask her about it once when I was around 10. I said something dumb like, Mom, why do you sleep under my bed? She just blinked at me and smiled. Oh, buddy, I don't do that. You must be having silly dreams. But that night, she was there again, and the tapping was louder. By the time I was 9 or 10, I stopped looking under the bed. I started sleeping on the couch when I could get away with it. Eventually, when I turned 11, she told me I was old enough to have a lock on my door. She never came back into my room. I don't know why she did it. I don't know what changed. She passed away when I was 23. Cancer. In her last weeks, she was confused a lot of the time, drifting in and out. But one night, when I was sitting by her bed, she grabbed my wrist and said very clearly, I kept you safe, you know. You were never alone at night. I shower a lot, or at least I used to. My city gets pretty humid and I live in a crappy apartment with no air conditioning. Add those two things together and you get a lot of cold showers. A guy's gotta keep cool somehow, right? In the middle of June, I took a trip back to my hometown to visit family. It was nice to see everyone, plus, my parents have a great HVAC system. All in all, I was dreading coming back to my apartment, but I had no clue that what was waiting for me so much worse than just a scorching apartment. I arrived back in my city in the evening. Stepping through my front door, I was greeted by stifling heat. Immediately, I felt sweat starting to bead on my forehead, and my mind went straight to the shower. Without even stopping to turn on the lights, I set my bags down and made my way down the hallway. At the end of the hall, I entered the small room on my right, the bathroom. I got in the shower as fast as I could and turned on the water. I heard a rattling sound, and the water began to sputter out of the shower head before reaching a steady stream. I didn't think much of this at the time. I just chalked it up to the fact I had been gone for the week. Maybe the water pressure had to equalize or something. I'm not a plumber. I was too busy enjoying the cool water to think about that, anyways. I'd been in there for a few minutes when I felt it. Something wet touched my leg. I know. I'm in a shower, everything's wet. This was different. This was something solid. The touch was light, almost imperceptible, but I felt it all the same. I spun around, turning towards the shower head and drain. Nothing there. I shrugged it off as best I could, insisting to myself that it must have been my imagination. The next morning, I went to take my pre work shower, having mostly forgotten about the little incident from the day before. But I felt it again. This time, there was no denying it. Something wet had touched my leg more confidently than before. The texture of the thing was familiar, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I forced myself to go to work, but found that I was completely unable to focus. That afternoon, I once again arrived home to an unbearably hot apartment slick with sweat. This damn heat wave. Despite my hesitancy, which was quickly turning into fear, I knew I had to shower. So I came up with a plan. I would shower facing the drain rather than turning my back to it like usual, confident I'd be able to identify whatever was causing my problem. I stepped in the shower, but my plan didn't work. I was an idiot. I got shampoo in my eye. Instinctively, I shut my eyes, felt that familiar sensation on my leg. What's worse, I realized what the texture reminded me of. It felt like a fucking tongue. I decided that I'd had enough. I phoned my landlord, who, after a great deal of persistence on my end, agreed to come check the shower drain the next morning. The night was sleepless one for me. I must have looked like shit because when he got there the next morning, my landlord, who typically doesn't give a damn about his tenants, asked if everything was alright. I said it was fine, just the drain was acting funny, that he needed to fix it. I'll be the first to admit I was kind of being an asshole about it, but can you blame me? About 15 minutes later, he came out of my bathroom and told me everything was fine, that there didn't seem to be anything abnormal with the drain at all. I just stared at him. Obviously, everything wasn't fine. But what am I going to tell him that something in the drain keeps licking my leg? Still, I didn't say anything, and my lack of appreciation must have pissed him off because he left without saying a word. I was late for work by this point, but I didn't care. I left my phone in the kitchen and went to the bathroom. I got on my knees in the shower and just stared down the drain. I don't know what I expected to happen, but I need answers. And in the end, I got them. I had been staring down the drain for maybe 10 minutes when I saw it. It started as a dim yellow slit running horizontal through the dark circle of the drain. The slit expanded until it became a full familiar circle. A fucking eyeball. A big one, too. It almost looked human but was just too damn big. It quivered slightly as we made eye contact, almost like it was excited. I scrambled out of the bathtub and slammed the bathroom door behind me. I refused to set foot in that room or even open the door after that. For days I didn't shower. Co-workers began to give me dirty looks and cringe when I approached them. But it didn't matter to me. There was no way I was going back into that bathroom. I snapped on the sixth day. That morning, I emerged from my putrid bedroom for another near sleepless night. I don't know what it was, but something told me to look down the hallway toward the bathroom. What I saw stopped me in my tracks. The bathroom door was wide open. I don't remember much of that day. After that, I remember intense primal fear that drove me out of the house and to my car. I remember entering my apartment with a jerry can. I remember lighting, I beg your pardon, the match. And I remember the sound of screeching tires as I drove to the last place I had felt safe. I arrived at my parents' house a little after dinner time. They were surprised to see me, most surprised at how rough I looked. I had barely slept over the last week, was hyperventilating, and probably smelled like garbage that had been left out in the sun. My mom encouraged me to take deep breaths and try to relax. After that, we could talk about what happened and why I was back. A nice warm shower would do the trick, she told me. My mom wouldn't take no for an answer, and it probably wasn't an option to decline anyway, given how I smelled. And honestly, the shower worked wonders. I felt the weight of the world lifted off my shoulders as I washed off a week's worth of filth and grime from my body. Then I felt something warm and wet wrap around my leg.